I'm talking today about the 491 visa, which is a type of general skilled migration visa for Australia. It's not a permanent resident visa, but leads to permanent residence. Once again, because it's a general skilled migration visa, you don't need to have an offer of employment from an employer prepared to act as your sponsor. It's a points-tested visa. You have to nominate an occupation on a list of occupations that's suitable, obtain a positive skills assessment, do an English language test, submit an expression of interest, and your expression of interest is then placed in a pool. There's two types of 491 visa, a state-nominated visa and a family-sponsored visa. But there are a very limited number of invitations actually given to family-nominated, family-sponsored 491 visas. The more typical example is the state-nominated 491 visa. Once again, the federal government allocates a number of places available to all the 8 states and territories, and these 8 states and territories then produce lists of occupations that are suitable or in demand in that particular state. If you submit an expression of interest mentioning a particular state, that state receives a notification. They can then look at your expression of interest and make a decision as to whether to invite you to apply for the 491 visa. If they do invite you to apply for state nomination, you then submit a fully documented state nomination application with all your documentation and make an undertaking to live in that particular state for at least a period of 2 years. Once you've lived and worked in a regional part of Australia, and regional Australia excludes the metropolitan areas of Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane, you can then apply for permanent residence under the Subclass 191 visa. It's still a very useful visa because you have full work rights, as does your spouse or partner, can go to government schools in Australia without paying international student fees, and your family unit consisting of your spouse, partner and dependent children will all be covered for Medicare, which is state-funded healthcare in Australia. But most importantly, it gives you full work rights so that employers don't have to act as your sponsor for temporary work visas. To get a family-sponsored 491 visa, the government has to make a certain number of places available in any particular pool draw. And what they tend to do is give priority of places to the 189 independent visas. If there's any places available and they really are the scraps, they tend to give them to the family-sponsored 491 visas. So it's not very many in total in any particular immigration year. It's far more common to obtain the state-nominated 491 visa. You can apply onshore and offshore for this type of visa. The most common question that I receive for this type of visa is that people don't want to migrate to Australia on a risky visa because it's not a permanent resident visa, but it's a temporary visa, and therefore there's no guarantee that you're going to obtain permanent residence. But none of my clients have ever failed to progress from the 491 provisional visa to the permanent resident visa, which is a 191 visa. There's a very low bar or threshold that has to be met in order to progress from the 491 to the 191 visa. So I don't think it's a particularly risky visa at all. I would just like to say that if you do receive the 491 visa and you subsequently then receive an offer of employment in maybe Melbourne, Sydney or Brisbane, and you're thinking about transitioning from that 491 visa to a 482 work visa, you can't do that. You can only take up that offer of employment once you get permanent residence under the 191 visa. It's a factor that not very many people know.